Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Flame Entertainment and Sports. It's our second episode of the week. Another special guest here with us, my boy Jerry. It's been a long time. I want to say the exact date. The last time he was on the podcast was March 8th, 2022. So almost 3 years. And yeah, Jerry, we're happy to have you back on, bro. Welcome to the show, and thanks for taking the time today.
Nah, thank you so much, Rob, and thank God that that I came back. It's great to be here. It's a blessing to be here again.
Nah, thank you, man. Nah, I'm glad, and now we're excited, guys, on this episode. So on Monday, for those of you who haven't checked it out, I did like an entertainment interview with Valerie. She's a huge Taylor Swift fan, and it was a fun time. It's your boy Rob here, my boy Jerry. We just wanted to make a quick little intro clip. During this episode, we mentioned that it would be coming out on Thursday, but it's actually it'll be coming out on Wednesday actually. So yeah, we just wanted to clarify. But yeah, Jerry, man, it was a great episode. We right got into four different trades that have happened already. The Luka one, the Fox one that we covered. Some other smaller ones. But yeah, man. What do you think people should be most excited for? For this NBA episode we did.
Well, they should be looking forward to a lot of trades, a lot of madness that went on these last couple of days, and a lot of like just laughs and just like a lot of like crazy stuff that happened, pretty much.
Nah, it's perfectly said. But yeah, man. Hope you guys enjoy this NBA trade episode, and yeah, now let's get into it. The first trade that we're gonna talk about actually happened a couple hours ago between the Milwaukee Bucks and the Washington Wizards. We had Chris Middleton; he's going to Washington, and then we have Kyle Kuzma going to the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm gonna pull up here the exact trade details just to make sure I get all the names right. So yeah, the Bucks get Kyle Kuzma, Patrick Baldwin, and a second round pick, while the Wizards get Chris Middleton, AJ Johnson, and a pick swap. So yeah, Jerry, you want to start off, man? What are your initial thoughts on this trade between the Bucks and
Um,
the Wizards?
Oops, sorry. My initial thoughts were I really like this from Milwaukee. I thought they did really good with this trade. You get Kyle Kuzma, who he's kind of become like a meme these last couple of years, but he's actually a really good player. So like I think he's gonna be a really good fit next to Giannis. You know, he can shoot. He's gonna space out the floor a little bit. His defense might not be the best, but I think he can play good enough defense to kind of like help you out. He's got good leadership from his days all the way back from the Lakers and then when he got a bigger role with the Washington Wizards, he showed what he can do. It's funny because like a lot of people aren't really high on this trade. A lot of people think this that like that because Kuzma kind of like has become a meme, he's really not this good player, but he's actually a pretty good player, you know. And not only that, you get a Patrick Baldwin Jr. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know too much about him, but I do know he's a young player. You know, you can have him in for development. You can like kind of help him like improve on whatever his deficiencies are. You know, I'd say Milwaukee did pretty good with this trade. The Washington Wizards, I felt they could have gotten a little bit more out of it, although I do think they are just trying to clear up cap space for the future by basically just offloading Kuzma and then bringing in Middleton. I think he's going to be in the buyout market for any contender who wants Chris Middleton. So I think it works out for Chris Middleton and it works out for Milwaukee. Washington, I mean, I can see the logic behind it, but I felt like they could have done a little bit better with this trade. But overall, I don't see this having huge negative effects against the Washington Wizards because they're in a rebuild mode either way. So I wouldn't give them too much slack on it, but I would give Milwaukee a really good grade on this. I'd probably say they did like an A, a B around there. And
Nah,
then for Washington, I'll give them like maybe a C. You know, nothing too crazy. You know, maybe it's the right move. Although I would say they could have gotten a little bit more out of it.
I agree with you, man. Those are all great points there. Like, yeah, I think Milwaukee's definitely the winner by far. Kyle Kuzma, like something I want to bring up him, being back on a good team again. I think this is a perfect fit for him because in Washington, they got him there to be like the number one guy. And I don't think Kyle Kuzma is ever going to be the number one guy on like a playoff team. I don't think that's who he is. But I do think he is a really good player. And you go back to the bubble finals, when the Lakers beat the Heat. I would say he was the third most important, player on that team. And one of the top reasons the Lakers won that championship. And look, he was playing alongside LeBron and AD, two All-Star players. And now he goes to Milwaukee, like you said, he gets to play with Giannis. He also gets to play with, Dame Lillard. And I think it's gonna be cool to see him with Brook Lopez as well. But yeah, I think this is a home run trade, honestly, for Milwaukee. Obviously, it's the end of an era. Like Chris Middleton, he's definitely one of the most beloved players, right? In Bucks history, I would say. He's a NBA champion. Him and Giannis were the main duo there for a long time. And I think Bucks fans will always be grateful for Middleton. But at the end of the day, too, with Middleton specifically, the last couple of years he's really struggled with his health. Like he's still a good player, a productive player. I think on a playoff team, he could be a really good role player. But at the end of the day, they're trying to win a championship there. And Middleton, he had a high contract. He wasn't available a lot. And now you get a young guy who's pretty much stays healthy. And now the thing with Kuzma too, there's gonna be a lot less pressure on him, just like it was in LA with LeBron and AD. And yeah, for Washington, honestly, I don't like the trade at all. Like, it doesn't really make sense to me because I feel for a guy like Kyle Kuzma, like not just that you could have gotten more because obviously Middleton, he's an All-Star caliber player, but for what Washington is like trying to do, which I think is rebuild. I would have preferred, if I'm a Wizards fan, right? I would have preferred for them to try to get like a young piece or two, just to kind of try to build something. Because like you said, you brought up a great point. I want to get into that now. I do think Middleton will be bought out, and I think who knows, he could end up being an X factor on the team if he does get bought out. That we're not saying that that's happening. We just feel that there's a big possibility. But if that were the case, I think any playoff team who signs Middleton, he could end up being like a big X factor, man. Like I could see him being an amazing six man for like a championship team or even a starter, because obviously he has the experience and he's had like really big moments in the playoffs. Like he's had some memorable games where he was even better than Giannis, scoring wise and everything. So yeah, man. Any other thoughts on like Middleton potentially being a buyout candidate?
Yeah, I think well, like you said, any team that brings him in is gonna get a champion, a guy with a lot of experience, a guy who can still score. Maybe he's not gonna be giving you 20, 25 like he was in the 2021 finals, but he still is gonna give you a lot of value. He's gonna give you a lot of he's gonna give you some scoring. He's gonna give you a lot of shooting. He might give you a little bit of defense. I'm not too sure, but he will give you a lot of experience, which is probably even more valuable than his scoring and his shooting. I'm not sure if he will get bought out. I just kind of like said that because I'm not sure how much he has left on his contract. I'm sorry. I know I should have looked this up a little bit earlier,
I'm
but
pretty sure. Nah, look it up. So I'm pretty. I want to say he has like 2 years left on the contract. Like I think 2026 he's a free agent. I want to say.
26. Okay.
I want to
Dang.
say that. Let me check it out here. Middleton is owed. Okay, so he's owed $31 million this season, and then for next year he has a player option worth 34 million.
Okay. It could still be a buyout option.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Like with Washington, because then like so you trade for that guy, right? Let's say you don't have plans to keep him, but then you still gotta pay him to let him go.
Yeah.
That makes the trade even to me even less smart for Washington. You feel me?
Yeah.
Like where's the I don't know. It's kind of like what do you guys like? What's your direction? You know what I mean?
Yeah, because like it is a player option, and I find it kind of hard for him to like reject that much money, especially at his age.
For sure.
Yeah, unless he's gonna do what Drew Holiday did a couple years ago, and just reject his player option, and then just like spread his money out for more years. So instead of getting 1 year 31 million, he'll probably look for maybe 3 or 4 years 10 million,
I feel you.
so to speak.
Now we'll see what happens then. But now we're gonna move on to another trade that happened between the Sacramento Kings, Chicago Bulls, and the San Antonio Spurs. The big headliner in this trade, De'Aaron Fox, multi-time All-Star point guard. He goes from Sacramento to San Antonio. We have another All-Star guard, Zach LaVine, going from Chicago to Sacramento to reunite with his former teammate DeMar DeRozan. And then we have the Chicago Bulls. They acquired a couple of role players there, but yeah, before we get into our thoughts, let me go detail by detail. So the Bulls get Kevin Huerter, Trey Jones, Zach Collins, and I know they got a couple. I think they got a
I think they
pick,
got their own first.
yeah, their own pick back from San Antonio. Then we have Sacramento. They got Zach LaVine. They got City Sissoko. I think that's how you say it. They got oh yeah, they swapped picks with the Bulls, and then they got a pick from San Antonio. And then we got San Antonio. They got De'Aaron Fox and Jordan McLaughlin. So obviously the headliner here is De'Aaron Fox. I'm gonna give some quick thoughts, and then I'll pass it over to Jerry. So for this trade with Fox going to San Antonio, I think it's a great fit. I think him and Wemby, they're gonna be a lot of fun to watch, especially in the pick and roll game. Fox, throughout his career so far, he's been one of the most consistent point guards, right, in the whole NBA. Super athletic. Obviously, he's also known for his defensive ability. Swipe of the Fox, that's his nickname. So he gets a lot of steals, and I think that's something in his game that doesn't get talked about enough. I think he's gonna help the Spurs defense. And now you look at what the Spurs have done already. It's only year two of Wemby. I think they're way ahead of progress. At least they're way ahead, like in terms of what I thought they would be. Year two into Wemby. So the fact that they had a guy of Fox's caliber, I think it's super exciting. And another thing to note is that Fox, made a trade request, and San Antonio is his number one team. So it also shows that players want to play with Wemby. But also too, his wife is actually from San Antonio, so perhaps Fox also wanted to be around family over there. But yeah, man, those are my like initial thoughts on just the San Antonio part. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that, man?
Yeah, I kind of like this trade for I really like this trade for San Antonio and for Sacramento actually. For San Antonio, you get one of the best point guards in the league. You know, you can't go wrong there. And for a couple of picks, I mean, yeah, you do lose picks, but in the grand scheme of things, when you are able to pair up one of the best point guards in the league with arguably one of the best players in the league, maybe a couple of years down the line, with Victor Wembanyama, and potentially a generation and arguably a generational talent, you you take that, and it shows that you have a lot of faith in Wembanyama, that you are actually willing to give up your picks in order to bring in star caliber players to pair up with Victor. And yeah, they still have a pretty young roster, so it's not like they're gutting their future just to bring in De'Aaron Fox. I thought they did really good with this trade. I don't think they had to give up that much in their terms. I mean, but I thought they did really good. They still have enough pieces to make another trade potentially,
Yeah,
and continue to add to their roster. Maybe bring in some role players. Maybe bring in some more young players. I think De'Aaron Fox is only like 25, 26,
yeah,
and or yeah, around there. He's around that age.
yeah,
You still have so many years with him and Wemby, that this is a great trade, that you're gonna be really good offensively. I think you guys are gonna. I think this team is gonna be on another level, not this year, but maybe next year. Defensively, I don't know how you're gonna score on them. You have one of the best rim protectors in the league. And then obviously, like you said, you have one of the best on ball guards in the league. It's gonna be tough to score on them.
for sure.
As for Sacramento, they do get Zach LaVine, or like you said, they get Zach LaVine and 3 first round picks. I
Yeah,
also liked it a lot for Sacramento because you still get you still get Zach LaVine, who is an All Star caliber player. I don't think he was an All Star this year, but he's still a very good player. You get picks, so you have assets. I'm not really sure what direction they're gonna go with, considering Sabonis is in his later 20s, and DeMar DeRozan is in his later years. Zach LaVine is also in his later years, later 20s.
yeah,
So I'm not really sure what they're gonna do, but I think they have a good starting I think they have a good starting point to where they can make a lot of moves. Maybe this year they like a certain player in the draft, so they'll try to trade up. They'll try to get him. Maybe they maybe they want to use those picks and just draft players, and then move on from Sabonis or Levine later on, and then let DeMar DeRozan's contract play out. There's a lot of different ways they can go. I like it. I do like it a little bit less for the Kings than I do for the Spurs, but ultimately, I think the Kings did as good of a job as you can do when your star player requests a trade. It's never easy. It's never easy to really like recoup all your assets, but they did a pretty good job. They have a good starting point, and I like it. For the Bulls, I didn't really like it too much. They did get their own pick back, but you do bring it. But for trading Zach LaVine, I do think they could have gotten a little bit more back. They do get Zach Collins, Trey Jones, and Kevin Werder, who aren't bad players by any means necessary. But I do think they could have gotten either one or two more young players, or they could have gotten one or two more picks. Maybe they're looking to rebuild. I mean, not maybe they are looking to rebuild. It does look like they are starting over. Uh, they look like they're gonna be not a good team for now, but it doesn't look like it's all like terrible. It looks like they can still. It looks like they can still they can still build their team later on down the line. I don't know what's gonna happen with Kobe White. I don't know if they're gonna keep him. They're gonna trade him. Who knows what's gonna happen there? Maybe they keep Trey Jones and then they move on from Werder and Zach Collins. I think you mentioned earlier that they were looking to shop them.
yeah.
I'm not too sure if they will. They could. I think they should probably because they are good players. They could contribute to a contender. But and really Chicago's not in any position right now to contend. So keeping those guys really doesn't make any sense when you can get maybe a young player. Maybe doesn't have to be one of the best young players. Just any young player that can kind of like contribute and give some hope for like the future. But honestly, I would say it was a big trade. It was another big trade that happened. That we'll get to the other one later on,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I loved it for the Spurs. I like it for the Kings. For the Bulls, I'd kind of give it like what Washington did. I would kind of give it like a C, and then I would give the other two teams an A or a B. I would give the Spurs an A plus actually, and then I would give the Kings maybe like a B plus in this trade.
Got you, man. Oh, yeah, to talk about the yeah, because I talked about the Spurs, but to talk about the Bulls really quick. Yeah, it's interesting because like Zach Levine, right? He's having his best year in a while because he's been able to stay healthy. He's scoring a lot of points. He shooting a high percentage from the 3 point line. But I feel like this trade might have been like 2 or 3 years too late, if that makes sense. When you think of like that group they had there with Levine, DeRozan, Vucevic, like Vucevic is still the only one remaining. And obviously they got rid of DeRozan. He's with Sacramento now, and then it's funny now. They traded Levine to Sacramento. But I feel if they would have done this like 2 or 3 years ago, they would have gotten a lot higher value. Obviously, it's easy to look back now and say that, but like when you really look at that group in Chicago, they never really did anything over the years to be like, oh, we got to keep them together. They're really showing a promise here, you know. So yeah, I think for Chicago, honestly, I don't really like the trade. I do, like you said, they did get three like solid players, right? Three good role players: Trey Jones, Herder, and Collins. But um, I, the only win I would say for Chicago, in my opinion, is that they're able to get rid of LaVine. Not because he's a bad player, obviously, but because of his contract. He's making a lot of money till I believe 2027. I want to say, or 2028, and it's yeah, like I felt there was no reason for them to like keep him around if they're gonna pay him so much money. He's only getting older, and they don't have anything right now that signals that they're gonna compete for a championship anytime soon. So I feel like they just waited too long to trade him. And then to talk quickly about Sacramento, I thought it was a nice pickup, to get LaVine and to get those three picks, right? I thought that was a really good return for Fox, like you said. It's never easy, when your star player asks for a trade. But I agree with you. I think Sacramento did a solid job, and I think they did as good as they did as good as they could. I feel like, but yeah, it is gonna be interesting moving forward. Like you said, what their direction is gonna be. Like you said, Sabonis, LaVine, DeRozan towards the end of his career. And then they have young guys, like Davion Mitchell, who is a great defender. He's okay on offense, but maybe he gets more of an opportunity. Then one of my favorite young guys is Keegan Murray, and this year he's had like probably his most down year. But I think it's because him and DeRozan, they're kind of the same player, so they don't really fit next to each other. So I feel like it's gonna be interesting going forward, and who knows, maybe Sacramento can somehow flip DeRozan. I wouldn't blame them for doing that because, like I said, he's towards the end of his career, and I don't think with what they have right now, they're gonna compete for a championship this season. So if I was them, I'd be calling around the league and seeing what I could get for DeRozan and hey, maybe even Sabonis. I wouldn't blame them honestly. And you have LaVine there for a couple years, and then a couple young guys around him, and they have a really good rookie. Anthony Carter's son, the former point guard, former Heat assistant coach. He's having a really good rookie year, and now he's gonna be starting at point guard, in place of Fox. So they do have some young pieces. So it's gonna be interesting moving forward. But I do agree with you that I think San Antonio is the winner, but that Sacramento did do a really good job. And yeah, then for Chicago, it's like you said, it's like the Wizards. But I would be interested to see if they do flip, the role players that they did get. Cause I think they could contribute to playoff teams. But yeah, man, you want to move on to the biggest trade that
Yeah.
happened? I would call it. I did a quick video on it, a couple of nights ago after it did happen. I called it the most shocking trade in NBA history, as the Dallas Mavericks trade Luka Doncic, who's arguably the best player in the world. They trade him to the LA Lakers. They get Anthony Davis in exchange. There's other guys in the deal. Let me say it right here, pull it up really quick. So the Mavericks, okay. So the Lakers get Luka Doncic. They get Maxi Kleba. They get Markieff Morris. They get, who else do they get here? Okay, they get those three guys, right? Okay. Then the Mavericks get Anthony Davis, Max Christie, a first round pick, and then Utah, I forgot, was also involved in the trade. Utah gets Jalen Hood Shafino, and they also get, wow, okay, and they get a pick from Dallas and the Lakers. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna give my thoughts really quick. So I'm still in shock that this trade happened. I think it's, like I said, the most shocking trade in NBA history. The fact that Luka Doncic, who, like I said, is arguably the best player in the world, he's only 25 years old. He just led the Mavericks to the finals last year. The fact that he just got traded um, for what he did, like in general, just to trade him in general to me is a crazy idea to have, or a crazy thought. But with that said, like everyone has a right to their opinion. If you want to trade him, you could trade him. But with that said, in my opinion, the Dallas GM or front office didn't do the proper job when you're trying to trade a guy of that caliber. When you're trying to trade a guy of that caliber, you have to, in my opinion, make it known, right, to the rest of the league that hey, we have Luka available. Can you just imagine the amount of draft picks you could get? Like, you could even get like some younger like guys and Davis, that are all-star caliber players if you want to go that route. But the fact that they go after an aging, an all-star, don't get me wrong, a future Hall of Famer, but an aging big man to pair him up with PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford, two other big men, and with Kyrie Irving and Klay Thompson, who are more towards the end of their career as well, right? They're Hall of Fame caliber guys too. But Davis, Kyrie, and Thompson are all heading towards the end. Luka is just in the prime right now. So I'm still in shock about it for the Lakers. Like, I mean, they committed robbery. I think Rob Pelinka should be investigated because. And then one more thing before I pass it to Jerry, something though that I do find like kind of suspicious. That it could just be me, having random thoughts. I find it super weird that the Mavericks offered up this trade that they called the Lakers and they said, "Hey, we want to give you Luka." That to me, the fact that they only offered him up to one team, I don't know if there's something else like years down the line that's gonna come out, that something will happen under the table. I wouldn't be shocked by that at this point with the amount of things that happen in the world and in sports. Like, so yeah, I just wanted to briefly mention that. So yeah, man, what are your thoughts on this insane trade?
Bro, there's no way that Adam Silver didn't somehow like like manipulate this trade to to like somehow boost the ratings up, because like ratings were just all the way down. But it, like you said, bro, this is just robbery, bro. Like, like basketball aside, credit to the Lakers, bro. For the Lakers, this is an absolute home run pick. Like an S. Like, you know how like in video games where you say like, oh yeah, like there's an A tier and then there's an S tier. No, that's an S. It's insane for the Dallas Mavericks. Um, Look, I think AD's a very good player, and I even told my dad the other day that it's possible that they could even get better, but I highly doubt it though. Like, look, your defense gets a lot better, but or not a lot better. It could possibly get better. Your offense, you don't lose that much. Actually, no, you do lose a lot offensively. You lose a lot with Luka's creativity. Although he's not that much worse of a player offensively, just the creativity, the passing, the playmaking, the shooting, the shot creation, just like you lose so much of that on offense and you don't really recuperate any of that. I mean, defensively, I mean, you could get better. It's possible, but I highly doubt it, bro. I'm not gonna lie. I doubt it because bro, like because you're basically gonna have a starting lineup with three big men in it. And bro, I don't know, like I've never seen a starting lineup that had three. I mean, I did see Cleveland a couple of years ago do try it with Markkinen, Jared Allen, and I think Mobley.
Yeah.
But I mean, they traded Markkinen like maybe like a year or two later, and then they got some picks, or I think in the Donovan Mitchell trade. But like, I don't think I've ever seen that kind of a lineup work. It's a thing, like three big men on the same starting lineup. It's a little weird. It doesn't really make any sense. So what I'm guessing is that they're gonna start Gafford and AD, and then they'll bring in the another guy we're gonna mention in a trade, Caleb Martin at the three, and then you have Clay at the two, and then you have Kyrie at the one. But here's the thing, bro, because like you can go super big with this lineup, but Kyrie is gonna have to create everything. I don't know exactly how you're gonna ask him to do it because that's not really his game. I mean, he can do it. He can get you like 5 to 6 assists in a game, but for the amount that you're losing with Luka, you're gonna have to ask him to get 8, 9, maybe 10 assists even, and then you're gonna have to still ask him to lock down on defense, without remembering that part of the reason he was able to play defense last year in the final or in the playoffs, as good as he was able to do, was because he didn't have as much responsibility on the offensive end because Luka Doncic was there. So now you lose Luka. So now Kyrie has to kind of reduce his role on defense in order to increase his role on offense, just so he can set up for Gafford, for Anthony Davis. You're gonna have to create a lot for your big men, and I don't see another playmaker apart from maybe Jaden Hardy. But I mean, he's not. it's not making up for what you lost in Luka. So you're just losing so much like playmaking. You're losing so much shooting. You're just like you're losing a lot of offense. And for the amount of defense that you're getting, look, don't get me wrong. I also believe that defense is super important and that it's very underrated. But my philosophy might be a little bit different for some people. I feel like you can't you can't win championships playing one side of the ball. That I just don't see it that way. But losing him, losing all that playmaking and creativity is just gonna kill them. And then let's say your offense does dry up, and Kyrie is also starting to he's starting to miss a lot of shots. He gets cold. Okay, then you're gonna have to go to a smaller lineup, and basically you're gonna have to get rid of Lively, Gafford, and PJ. You're gonna have to take them all off the floor just so that you can get AD more touches because you're not gonna really put because if you want AD to really because if your offense dries up and you want AD to start cooking, you kind of have to you're gonna have to go at least and you want to go small ball, you're gonna have to like take those guys out and you're gonna have to put in AD and then you're gonna have to throw out a lineup of Kyrie, Caleb, Clay, maybe Max Christie, and then you throw in AD. I mean, it's not a bad lineup, but would I really go? Would I really like expect them to? But do I really expect them to like uh, compete against the Boston
Yo,
small
you there?
ball, even the Heat small ball, the Minnesota small ball? No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't expect them to compete with, or even OKC small ball. Like I wouldn't. Not
Yeah,
at all. Like it just doesn't make any sense. And the more I think about it, the less it makes sense. I thought, maybe, you go all in, you have a 2 year window, but even the best case scenario is just bad because after next year, I mean, I think Dallas's timeline ends next year. After next finals, it's just over. And then what? You have nothing pretty much.
I agree, man. Yeah, my biggest thing with Dallas is like you said, their GM Nico Harrison, he's like, oh, I believe defense wins championships, and I'm like, no, of course, without defense, you're not gonna win a championship. But like to me, his actions don't back up his words. Because don't get me wrong, AD is obviously great defender, great rim protector, and all that. But what is trading away Luka Doncic? What does that have to do? It just doesn't make sense to me. Like the trade itself, and then all his everything he says, like yeah, the actions just don't match the words, right? Or what he's like preaching. And yeah, my a big thing too. I keep hearing people now or certain reporters being like, "Oh, Dallas is going all in, championship or bust." It's like I don't really understand that point because it's like at the end of the day, like I talked to Jerry about this before we recorded. Like all these guys are towards the end of their career. Like Kyrie Irving, he's not getting younger, right? Klay Thompson, he's even further down than Kyrie, towards the end of his career. And then I know you're saying like Caleb Martin might start, but I was actually reading and the projected lineup is like PJ Washington at the three, which I don't really understand it. I don't get the fit. Like you said, having the three big men, right? Like to me, I would feel like better about it if PJ Washington was more of a guy that can like handle more and like kind of bring the ball up the court, like a guy like that, right? But PJ Washington is more of a like he's more of a four. Like obviously he's a hell of a shooter. Like he's contributed greatly since they picked him up last year at the deadline, but it just sounds weird. And then, like you said, AD at the four and Gafford at the five. But yeah, my biggest thing with this team right now is the age. Like I don't know how they're expecting a group. The majority of your leaders are the guys you're counting on the most. They're in their 30s already, and you're relying on them, and you're saying, "Oh, we're going all in for a championship." Another big thing for me is like the health factor. Like I said, I keep saying these guys are towards the end of their career, and you're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, we're going all in," and you think that I don't know. I guess they're expecting them to just stay healthy and be fine in the playoffs, but that's another factor that I don't think people are talking about enough. And this is not like I'm not trying to disrespect the players like Kyrie, Clay, AD. They're three future Hall of Famers. There's no doubt about it. But I just feel like a lot's being asked of them right now, and this point of their career. And that's why I thought too that Kyrie fit perfectly with Luka because Kyrie still has that ability to take over a game, to step up for you, to be a big time player in the big time moments. But I think he's already past that stage to just be like, oh yeah, Kyrie, you gotta pass, you gotta shoot, you gotta do everything for us. So yeah, it just this doesn't make any sense for me for Dallas. But like I said, I just wanted to make sure. Yeah, I'm not trying to like disrespect the players at all. They're all incredible talents and they've had unbelievable careers. We've been like blessed to be able to witness them. But I just feel like they're being asked to do too much at this point of their career. If you want to transition, like you mentioned, Caleb Martin, right? Dallas also acquired him in a separate trade from Philadelphia, and in exchange they traded a second round pick and Quentin Grimes. Many people after the AD trade, they thought Quentin Grimes, oh, he's gonna be in that starting lineup, but look, I have forgotten he's going to be a free agent this offseason. So I guess Dallas didn't want to re-sign Luka, didn't want to re-sign Grimes, I guess. So they traded him now for Caleb Martin, who I love. Obviously, he spent a lot of time here with the Heat, a lot of big time, moments, and especially in the playoffs, he really stepped up when we needed him. And I just feel he's one of the best role players in all of basketball. From Philadelphia's perspective, they just signed him this offseason from Miami. And then a couple months in, you're already trading him. That part I don't understand, but it is Philly at the end of the day. They're going to do what they do best, be themselves. Um, Daryl Morey, he keeps. Speaking of robbery, right? We're talking about Palinka being robbing people. How about Daryl Morey? How many owners has he like robbed in his career? I'm not trying to like hate on the guy personally, but when you really look at his career, okay, yeah, he'll acquire a big name player, right? Oh, Harden, Chris Paul, Paul George. All right, good for him. But has he ever like I don't know built a championship team or maybe I fell asleep one year and he became the best GM of all time. But that's another guy I think that I don't know little by little I think people are finally gonna start seeing that he I don't know he's more talk than action or something. I really don't see the appeal with Mark. But yeah, so from Philadelphia, like I said, I'm not surprised because them. For Dallas, I do love like the acquisition of Caleb Martin. I rather have him over Quentin Grimes. Like I do like Grimes, and Grimes is younger, right? He's a good player, but I rather have Caleb Martin. And the biggest thing for me with Caleb is that I know he's gonna go above and beyond. He's gonna do whatever you ask him to do, and he's not gonna complain. He's literally just gonna go in there, give it his all, and try to help the team win. So I love Caleb Martin. So at least for that one, I'll give Nico Harrison a passing grade for that one. But obviously, he still traded probably the best player in the world. But yeah, man. So what are your thoughts on the Caleb Martin trade?
Yeah, I like it too. Yeah, Caleb Martin contributed so much to the Heat's championship runs, and I think he's going to contribute a lot to the Dallas Mavericks. I think it was a really good trade for them. Like you're going if you're going to go all in. I mean, might as well bring in a role player who kind of exemplifies that. For Philadelphia, I mean, not really sure what they're really doing. I think they're going. I think they're. I mean, are they trying to rebuild? Or are they trying to Are they trying to offload contracts? Are they trying to bring in another star? I mean, not really sure what they're doing. I mean, they just signed Paul George this last offseason. I mean, keeping Caleb Martin would have been the most logical decision for me. You have Embiid. Those two guys are like pushing the end of their careers. I mean, if you're trying to win, you would think that keeping a guy like Caleb Martin was the right decision. Not bringing a younger guy uh, uh, who's who could contribute to your team, but just doesn't really make sense. You know, if you're going all in, you might as well go all in. Doesn't really make any sense. I mean, yeah, you get your second round pick back, but is but if you're thinking about going the younger route, wouldn't you think to trade Embiid and Paul George, build around Maxi? I mean, that's what I think they should do. I think they should absolutely build around Maxi.
I agree
But
100%.
don't think that's what they're gonna do. I honestly don't. I think I think they're too I think they're too scared to pull the trigger, and I think they're just gonna run this through. I mean, I agreed. I actually agreed with the acquisition of Paul George in the summer, but I mean, I don't know. I know he's getting injured a lot. But I mean, I don't know if it's because he's getting injured a lot that he hasn't been playing, but he hasn't really played that much for them, and it's just like at this point, it's like you kind of just have to like let it go. I would say it's time to blow it all up, rebuild. I know that's not something Philly fans really want to hear because they went because in the earlier part of last decade, or in the earlier 2010s, after they traded Iguodala and Drew Holiday, that's when they really started their rebuild. That's when they really went all in to just like tank for the process, pretty much. And it was a long rebuild where it was really painful. There was a lot of losing. I don't think they want to do that. I don't think the fans want to do that again. But I think that might be the answer for them. It
Well,
just
the answer, AI. I
yeah.
like
I was thinking just that right now,
that's perfect. Like that was really perfect.
bro.
The answer.
I didn't want to mention it, but it's a good thing you mentioned it. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's what they have to do. You got to rebuild. You got to just cut your losses. The process was a failure. Let's just say it like that. The best they ever did was make it to the second round that year that they had Jimmy Butler.
But yeah, guys, we wanted to make sure to cover these trades that have already gone down, and the trade deadline is Thursday at 3 o'clock. So obviously there's gonna be a lot more to talk about. So make sure to stay tuned. We're gonna have another bonus episode, uh, probably coming out on Friday or Saturday. We're gonna give a reaction to the rest of the trades that go on. Hope you guys enjoyed this NBA trade episode. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at the flame_es. Until next time, everyone, take care.